This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, May 27th of 2025, and we are so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be talking with Dr. Marisa Rotolo. She's the Director of Swine Health with the National Pork Board. We have a discussion about the status of H5N1 in the swine industry. Of course, that conversation coming to us just before World Pork Expo. Also have a check of the closing markets with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. But first, here's my conversation with Dr. Marisa Rotolo about not only the status of H5N1 in the swine industry, but how prepared they are to deal with any potential outbreaks. We're here right now with Dr. Marisa Rotolo of the National Pork Board. She's the Director of Swine Health, and today we're talking about H5N1 management in the swine industry. First off, great to talk with you today. Tell us a little bit about the current status of H5N1 management and how that's looking within the pork industry.
As of today, H5N1 has only had one detection in a small swine holding in Oregon that was an isolated case. We have not detected it in our U.S. commercial herd. We are still collecting samples through our USDA influenza surveillance program. In terms of H5N1 management, our industry stands ready to respond should we have an H5N1 incursion into the U.S. commercial swine herd. We have multiple industry groups such as National Pork Board, National Pork Producers Council, where Dr. Anna Forsyth has really been leading the charge in H5N1 response and development of a response plan. And then SHIC, the Swine Health Information Center, AASV, American Association of Swine Veterinarians, as well as the Meat Institute. So all of these groups have been working together in order to monitor the situation as it develops with H5N1 in respect to the poultry and dairy industry. We've also been working together to develop a response should it enter the U.S. swine herd, and that is an effort that has been spearheaded by NPPC, by Anna Forsyth, with input from those entities that I previously listed.
So then looking at the response strategy, should it enter the U.S., what kind of steps would that look like, in that kind of worst case scenario?
First and foremost, this is a regulatory disease, so the authority for how to respond lies within USDA as well as our state animal health folks. For the response guide, we put this together as a tool for education for our federal and state partners to let them know what the capabilities of the swine industry would be should we have a detection of H5N1. And so the most important thing to pay attention to is, what's going on in that dairy space, what's going on in the poultry space, and what would be the expectations should it arrive into the swine industry. Something to keep in mind for producers is because of its status as a foreign animal disease for poultry, and because of its potential public health implications as influenza A is a zoonotic disease, it's important to think about the response as potentially a combination of a foreign animal disease response as well as an influenza A response should it get into the swine industry. But again, the final authority on that will be USDA and our state animal health partners.
And is there anything from this round of seeing H5N1 just, not just in the U.S., of course, but just across the globe, is there anything from this round here recently that we've learned a little bit more about this virus and how to manage it?
It's important to note that H5N1 is an influenza A virus, and our swine industry has been managing influenza A viruses for years, so we feel very adept at the ability to manage it should it enter into the swine herd. We are taking this opportunity to do a lot of research. We've recently partnered with SHIC and FFAR in order to release an H5N1 request for proposal that really helps to identify our knowledge gaps and helps to identify proposals that can address those knowledge gaps, so we can have these questions that we have related to H5N1 answered prior to a detection should it enter the U.S. commercial herd.
And then just one last thing, of course, World Pork Expo is coming up really soon. And when it comes to talking about diseases like this and many other things, it's really nice to have a bunch of producers in the area, industry leaders. I'm sure you guys, National Pork Board, are looking forward to being there and getting that opportunity to talk with everyone, right?
World Pork Expo is always a great opportunity for us to connect with producers, veterinarians, and different folks across the swine industry to really put our ear to the ground of what are the challenges that you guys are facing on the slat level every day, and how can we as your representatives help you overcome those challenges. So it's a good opportunity for us to have that interaction and to learn from you guys on how we could better serve you.
All right, lots of great information today for anyone who is listening along or watching and they would like to learn more from the National Pork Board. How can they do that?
As it relates to wanting guidelines on influenza or H5N1, the National Pork Board does have an influenza aid landing page at porkcheckoff.org that provides a lot of resources as it relates to biosecurity and influenza aid management. So I would start there. In addition to that, just feel free to reach out to us if you ever have a question. We're here and we work for you, and our goal is to ensure the health and well-being of our producers and the pigs under their care. So if you ever have a question or need to get in touch, please feel free to reach out. All of our information is on our website, but starting first at porkcheckoff.org would be your best shot.
Thanks again to Dr. Marisa Rotolo, Director of Swine Health with the National Pork Board, for joining us today. We will be seeing everyone in the swine industry next week already at the World Pork Expo at the Iowa State Fairgrounds here in Des Moines. We'll take a look at the closing market prices next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're here now with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for the closing market summary. Sam, we had a 3-day weekend. So far today, how have the grain markets looked?
It's been a very quiet Tuesday following a 3-day weekend. Generally this time of the year with weather forecasts and that sort of thing, you come out of a 3-day weekend and see some fireworks in the grain markets, but that was not the case today. Corn and soybean futures were relatively unchanged, traded both sides of unchanged. Wheat market was a little bit of an anchor on the corn today. They were down about 13 to 14 cents on some rain that was received in the western wheat belt here over the weekend, but for the most part, a pretty quiet day in the grain trade.
And of course, with that 3-day weekend, there's not really been time for much news to develop yet. But honestly, looking through the rest of the week, there's really not too much that we're looking at that could really sway that anyways, right?
Yeah, as we get into the month of June, weather becomes number one topic of concern. So as weather forecasts change, the markets are going to be very keen to that, and we'll be watching for that. Right now, we're looking for a little bit of a dry stretch here in the near-term forecast, but rain's returning for much of the area where your listeners are watching there in Iowa, and even if you go a little bit further north, seeing in that 8 to 14 day forecast, plenty of rain come into the picture. Whereas if you go to the eastern side of the country where they have been excessively wet up to this point in the season, they are actually going to start to dry out. So it's going to be kind of a little bit of a switch of patterns here based on what we're looking at today.
And then moving on to the livestock, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Well, the cattle markets were the one piece of excitement that we had today. Around 10 o'clock this morning, there was reports of a New World screwworm found in a Missouri cattle herd. and that sent futures sharply lower. Live cattle and feeders were both down near limit at one point, but found out that was a false claim. That article that was being traded ended up getting taken down, and we recovered off of those lows pretty substantially. However, it did finish lower on the day for both the fats and feeders.
Then over in the hog markets, I know much less exciting because there's not really anything policy-wise going on there, but still a little bit of strength, I think, right now.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There is a little bit of strength there for sure. Exports have been really strong here as of late. You see, obviously the hogs are pretty sensitive to any tariff talks or negotiations, but since the tariff talks have kind of been on the sidelines here for a little bit, it seems like we've kind of priced that sort of thing in, and as we see strong exports continue, that hog market is gaining ground. And in light of the red on the screen in the cattle markets today, the hogs finished the day green across the board. So that was very nice to see.
All right, Sam, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch for more marketing information, how can they do that?
Best way would be to visit our website at agmarket.net or give us a call here in Normal at 1-800-779-1515.
Thanks again for the analysis, as always, Sam, and we look forward to talking again soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
That again was Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. July corn went unchanged at $4.59.5. July soybeans up 2 1/4 at $10.62.5. July soybean meal up 10 cents at $2.96.30. Soybean oil up 22 cents at $49.57. Chicago wheat down 14 even at $5.28.5. Kansas City hard red wheat down 14 1/4 at $5.24.5. Minneapolis spring wheat down 10 1/4 at $5.96 1/4. July oats up 5 1/4 at $3.60 even. On the Merc, June live cattle down 67 cents at $2.15.12. August feeders down 2.22 at $2.98.15. June lean hogs up 80 cents at $99.10. June pork cutout went unchanged at $105.67, and June Class 3 milk up 30 cents at $19.64. That's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, and LinkedIn, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pod's Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting service at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean, or once again on the Iowa AgNet website, iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.